Hey everyone! Welcome back to another discussion for Tokyo After School Summoners content for the new event, Breaksweat Sports Festival, Scramble World Trophy. We'll also be covering the second wave of charge skill evolutions that have been released quite a while ago. But yeah, hopefully you guys will enjoy this and find this helpful. Joining me today is Zalgus.
It's only me here today. Also, that was a terrible event name.
Well, Breaksweat is honestly me trying to improve what the original was called. I think it was called like a sweaty and sparkly sports festival. I was like, I am not making a graphic for that. So.
That is also a terrible name.
So I just went with Breaksweat. Let's not trigger the gents here who like all that sweat. Anyway, let's hop right in. Good to see you, Lin and Hunchan. We are going to start off with a charge evolution, so if you're a bit late, then that's fine because we're going to be covering the mid subjects first. Starting off with Moritaka's evolution. You are free to begin whenever you're ready, Zalgus.
Let me just scroll back up. Right. Okay, Moritaka CS. So Moritaka CS was originally pretty useless and it only removed buffs. I mean, I guess that was useful, but he didn't really get it fast enough for it to be useful. Nor was he useful enough for it. Anyway, at 4-star, his CS gains freeze and also concentration. The freeze applies to enemies hit and enemies behind. So the concentration is fine. I've complained before about scaling buffs and debuffs in CSs, but concentration at least has that 10% skill rate, and he actually would appreciate having that because some of his rates are kind of butt and don't hit 90% for skill seeds. So now he can guarantee his attack up, although I would hope by that time he would have gotten it at least once. And it makes his protection less bad. Not guaranteed, unfortunately. And if you're relying on that by turn however many, by the time you actually get the CS for his concentration, then I hope you would rely on better strats than that. Anyway, his freeze is essentially pointless because Mori already freezes on move, and if anything, it's actually potentially bad because if Mori CS's and there are enemies behind the front row, he'll inflict a CS level freeze on the back row, which will be bad because it will be CS level and not his skill level, which he can already inflict. So that'll actually make his damage worse.
So yeah, the concentration.
I guess if you have a very high level Moritaka, then
I hope you look forward for me to say that for literally every single charge skill evolution we get.
Yeah, scaling statuses on CSs, please stop adding them. Anyway, yeah, the concentration is fine if only for the skill rate up, and the freeze is either useless or it's detrimental. And the 3-star CS only gains freeze, but at least 3-star Mori doesn't inflict freeze, so he can make use of it. Mori can actually build up his CS at a decent rate, unlike Maria from the previous batch at least, so you might get some use out of this, but it's not great. But it's also not the worst one we've had, so there's that, I guess. Moving on.
Yeah, sure. Mori is a bad unit, and this charge evolution does not help it. He functioned in a specific way before, and that function has not changed at all. And that function has not really gotten stronger either.
It makes it worse, like I said.
Yeah, but just to briefly talk about Moritaka, since he technically was on banner anyways. He is just like, he has a bunch of disparate timings in his entire kit, and what it suggests is you really are meant to like move him and make him attack units after, and then get hit, and then you're just supposed to do all three constantly with his like mid movement and mid rates and mid impact. Also that he can eventually build his charge up for that the level 1 freeze. Ooh, I mean, you're gonna want to avoid using Moritaka like pretty much in all cases. But if you are gonna use him, I guess the best way to complement Moritaka would be bringing a unit that also has mixed support utility, because Moritaka's own utility is just like, it's everywhere, but it's also weak, so bring someone else that also does something everywhere, but, you know, in different ways to add on to that. But yeah, Moritaka sucks. Do not use him as the, what's called, mascot of this game. That's kind of funny, though. Alright, we can move on to the next topic, unless you... Actually, you should read out the chat. There's not too much, actually. Let's just move on. Alright, moving on to the next topic. If you will, Zalgus, whenever you're ready.
Is it...
It's
we're not alternating?
I gave you the schedule, Zalgus.
Yeah, but I usually expect to alternate. But that's fine. So, Hanuman... he also did not gain a good CS evolution, and actually it's probably worse than Mori's, but whatever. But debatable. So his original CS just applied acceleration, and now it also gives CP in a decent range and not acceleration, and applies weakness to enemies he hits. The CP is in a decent spread, at least, but Hanuman is only thrust range CS, so it's of limited use, because you're only going to get 16 CP at base if you hit 2 squares, unless you use on Yankapon. But if you were going to use on Yankapon for CS strats, use it on like someone who's actually useful.
Get ready to hear on Yankapon's name every single time we have a Charge Evo batch.
Yeah, on Yankapon will appear multiple times. I think he will actually be more prevalent than Smoky God somehow. He was making a joke about how on Yankapon is the next Smoky God, which he is.
Yeah.
The fixer of bad units, or bad CSs in this case, or possibly the one who augments decent CSs into busted ones. But yeah, yes, I know. But yeah, the weakness is not useful because it's a scaling status, and also it applies only in a thrust range, so why would you ever want that? Like, you could just apply a better weakness, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bad Evo.
Well, it's a bad Evo, but more importantly, it's a bad Evo that is also on a bad kit that does not fix it, really. I mean, I guess it gives him slightly more purpose for his charge fill ability, but as you can see in the footage, despite him having a committed guaranteed ability to build his charge and his allies, it's pretty fucking shit, to be honest. Like, 6 CP is not going to get you anything compared to like pretty much every other modern charge fill ability. It just feels like he's building his charge just from regular attacking at this point.
You can gauge the usefulness of a unit by what quest you decided to take them on, because you took them on Berserkers, which is a very easy map.
Hey, that's not a terrible map, it's just that it's better for skirmishing units, which Hanuman is, and there's not really anything else that's good for skirmishing where you can just board wipe everything else. But yeah, skirmishing is not relevant in this game. Hopefully it can be one day, because they do love releasing these types of units, but even among skirmishers, Hanuman's not great. You really are just supposed to move him every turn, or even every other turn. You might want to complement him with Horse in this case. Not talking about his Evo here, but Hanuman has this ability to bestow evasion to his allies, which is nice, and that's only an odd turn, so it is guaranteed. But Horus can bestow guts on every even turn, so in a way you can get like pseudo full immunity just from these 2 units. Kind of a very slow way to play the game, but it is strong. Just, you know, technically inefficient just because you can just board wipe everything instead. But yeah, otherwise avoid using this skirmisher unless you're using on Yankapon, in which case, I mean, it's probably better.
You could take someone else, yes, if you're gonna go to the effort of using on Yankapon.
Well, you know, if you're starting the game and you happen to have these 2, I guess this could be your easy ticket to charge.
Just use Oscar.
Yes. Oscar? Does he have a charge spell to his allies?
No, to himself, but he'll also kill everything for you.
Zalgus, what if you want to do a funny meme with everyone charging? Actually, we'll
then
get that
you should do that later.
Yes, we will get to that soon, PM. Okay, moving on to the last 4-star evolution. Technically, these are also 3-star evolutions, but like, who cares about those unless you actually want to talk to them? But yeah, we will.
I would only talk about them if they're useful, but they're not.
Yeah. Anyways, talk about the most useful evolution of the patch, Shiro's.
Yeah, it's like on the same level of usefulness as Hanuman's. Honestly, it's slightly worse than his. Better, debatable. Anyway, so Shiro 4's CS originally inflicted fear, just like his regular self inflicts fear, and now he inflicts confusion and gives CP to adjacent allies. Confusion is functionally useless because his CS already inflicted fear, which lasts longer, so they're already immobilized, so the movement reduction of confusion doesn't matter because they already can't move.
Zalgus, you can hear me wag my finger right now, can't you?
Or what? Are you saying if fear wears off and then confusion takes hold?
No,
because
I'm not that degenerate. I'm just like, what if you want a confusion damage? Ooh!
Yes, I was going to mention that. If you're really invested in the confusion effect where they hurt allies around themselves when they attack, but no one invests in that effect because it's, 1k damage per enemy hit, which, first of all, you're letting them hit you, which, if you're fearing enemies, chances are you're not letting them hit you. And second of all, that's going to damage you, and you don't want that, probably. And lastly, like, it's 1k damage. Like, Shiro could inflict that much, I think, with his regular attack, give or take. So, yeah, the confusion effect is actually just useless. The increased CP to allies adjacent is fine, I guess, but it's also not that much. You're gonna get 25 CP at most at base, so it's not useful. So
misinformation. Yeah. There's the 3-star Zalgus, which everyone can max for 10 CP per hit. Amazing.
Yeah. Luckily, the 3-star version got the useful part of the Evo.
So you can get 50 CP with Shiro. Ooh, 3-star Shiro, and make sure you max him from the ally. Gotcha. Totally worth it.
Bad CS Evo.
Alright, but besides that, let me just review this unit in full. Honestly, I have the exact same notes from the last time Shiro got an evolution, which was actually quite decent. But I'll just go over them quickly. You can place him in the leader slot if you want to exploit fear advantage the best, so that everyone else can follow up with that fear weakening effect. Consider combo 2 on Shiro if you want him to take a patch of fear, since he also has a fear advantage personally on himself. Because of this weird delayed damage strategy that is also kind of stally, he's not really, ideal for super long battles, even though fear can be good. But he's also not good for instant wipes, so, battles are like 2 to 5 turns long per phase would probably be ideal for Shiro. aka skirmishes. But yeah, that's it for the 4-star evolutions, I believe, unless you have something else to say about that.
They all suck.
Well, you can read up the chat now for this section, and then we can move on to the 5 stars, which are obviously gonna be better.
Did you read the hellos yet?
I read the first 3. Including my own.
It's very important you read your own. This event is skippable, but Aegir is in it, so I'm not sure. Hey, if you want him, then go for him. Hey, Era. I'm not Era. My buddy Moritaka. I got all of Moritaka variants, and both his 5 stars are good. Well, I'll be the first to shill for Jamboree Moritaka, and Valentine's Moritaka is okay as a CS spammer. I wouldn't say that he's great, though. But he's certainly usable if you want to put the effort in.
Yeah, miss me with that. But, you are free to believe what you want to believe.
Hey, I like Jamboree Moritaka. I still use him as a double column clearer.
Okay, sure, Chad.
Summoners Bang... Why are we talking about Bang Boos? Hi, everyone. But... Is this French?
No, that's not. I don't know what Boa is, but Amigo is not French.
Well, I know Amigo's not French.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I do not understand Gazer Beyond. Giri, come home. No, thank you.
No, come home, Giri. I need you. I'd be voting on the Rig part right now, even though I didn't actually pull that much. But I don't have much reasons. Okay, let's move on to the 4 stars of the batch.
Oh, it's Portuguese. I'm afraid Irby is not here.
Zalgus, why are you not learning Portuguese from Irby? Can't believe this. Constantly and fancy with them. You're not teaching you? Please.
There was some funny thing I learned once for a day of the week, but I can't remember what it was.
Okay. We are going to be talking about the 5 stars very quickly now for the ones that receive charge evolutions. Starting off with Chernobog's base 5-star and base 3-star. Well, I'm not really going to be talking about his 3-star. But yeah. What has changed in his evolution is his countdown now spreads to enemies behind on charge, as well as the target as per usual. And he also gained a charge fill effect on himself every time he hits someone. And he can do a bit of lifesteal now too. So because of that lifesteal effect, technically he's a slightly better tank and guard type unit. I mean, he wasn't really that great to begin with it, but he does have a few effects built towards it. Guts, Curse, Protection, Nullify debuff, Freeze Resistance, and now lifesteal. That makes it. Oh yeah, and also CP steal and just reducing CP a lot. There's just a bunch of things, but overall, it's not really the greatest tank effects. It's just a bunch of auxiliary shit. And on top of that, there are some minor improvements to him having mixed damage because of that same lifesteal effect. However, he's actually good at mixed damage if you want to play him like that because of his freeze weakening effect. At full CP, he can also freeze the entire board, which is quite nice. And of course, that countdown spread definitely can contribute if you don't have like the greatest teams, but because countdown, at least for early games, does do a lot of damage, up like 10,000 damage even on level 1, which it will be on your charge effect. And what has not changed is he's still movement higher when he inflicts oppression. Well, yeah, my notes have also not changed from Chernobog because his evolution does not really change his playstyle. Go ahead and consider assigning him to a guild if you want to get his max CP as quickly as possible to freeze the entire board and take advantage of that freeze weak thing. The charge itself, you're not really going to be playing around it. It is nice though that he does have slightly better charge looping potential because it is kind of a pain to build his charge in the first place. So if you are going to commit to using his charge, you're going to be recouping a bit of CP for every enemy you hit, which is okay. It's not too much, but at least it's something. But yeah, that's all I have for Chernobog. What say you, Zalgus?
I say he can't build up his CS anyway, so it's not that useful.
But when he does get it, ooh.
Wow!
Then you can build it.
You'll get a minor HP steal effect. I mean, it could potentially be quite a lot of HP, but
probably not for HP depletion, but at least it's still healing him a bit. That's if he's sitting even at level 1, 3 units and they have people behind him, that's like 2,400 he's healing. So that's decent, I think.
It's okay, I guess.
Actually, it up 3,600. Yeah.
I still don't think it's that. It doesn't, elevate his CS to the point where, wow, I gotta get that. In fact, I'd say the countdown is still the most impactful part of it because it, countdown at base is still fine.
Yeah, but his charge was already very tempting to get in the first place, even if you weren't going to use it because of the CP 100 ability of freezing the entire board. This just adds more reason to build towards it, despite his entire base kit not really being built towards it, besides his slight CP steal. But
I guess the expansion of the countdown is good.
Yeah, I think it's okay, at least in terms of building on what his new role is of getting his charge up. But yeah, not too much to say about this one as well. You're probably not going to change his playstyle too much.
Yeah. Also, I found the thing I was talking about regarding Portuguese. The abbreviation for Friday in Portuguese is sex. There you go.
Very important. Everyone knows that.
Yes, that's true, actually. And I asked Derby that, and he said yes.
Sexo. Anyways, let's move on to the final 5-star of the Charge Evolutions so that we can finally move on to the proper event topics. We are going to be finishing off this Charge Evolution batch with Snow's 5-star and 3-star. So, he received an evolution where he now, both on his 3-star and 5-star, has received an additional defensive buff, which is quite good, even though it's like a low level. I don't know, it'll be good for whales, and also it is pretty rare anyways. It's not going to be likely to be stacked unless you're bringing a second attack for some reason. Snow already bestows himself tenacity and protection. So to get another one on top of that, Adamantine is quite nice, especially if you have a few copies of him, which is possible given he is a free unit despite being a 5-star. And he also, on top of that, has improved his remove buff ability that has changed into remove all buffs on his charge, and can now freeze combatants, so that will add more to his situational damage. To just quickly summarize his roles, he's an excellent tank before that was the main caveat that you had to move every turn. And now it's just added more on top of that because he is going to be building his charge quite quickly. He's one of the few classic tanks that can build both charge and tank the entire time very quickly. Kind of like that self-synergy to stall to build for charge. It's a good effect. And he also is a situational damage dealer. So situational that you're probably never going to use him for damage dealing. So that freeze effect and remove all buffs effect is probably not going to be too useful. That Berserk Strengthening has always been bizarre. It's like that alongside Ardor screams, bring me his Claude, but you do not want to bring him his Claude. I've tried making it work several times, and it just never really feels good. So don't bother with using his situational damage dealing. He's not that great of a Slayer. But yeah. He just use this unit if you want to brute force stalling and doing charge spam for skirmishing. There's not really any other use for him other than that very slow, brainless spam your charge over time playstyle, which is very Gen 1, Gen 2-ish. But even if it's not fast and it's not explosive, it's still effective if you have him. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Snow.
I think this Evo is pretty good. It actually, changing remove buff to remove all buffs is a insane change that, it completely different levels of power. And the freeze is fine because he doesn't inflict freeze natively, and the adamantine's fine because he doesn't have that natively either, and it's rare. So, they gave him a powerful base effect that you can probably get pretty good use out of, and the other two effects are, stuff that doesn't interfere with what he's already doing. If anything, Adamantine augments it. So, yeah, I think it's all good. And he can, build up his CS fairly quickly. I mean, it's not like it's, it's not like Snow's going to break any records with how he is now, but I think it's a pretty good buff.
Yeah, I mean, all the more so just because he's kind of among everyone listed, the only one that can really build his charge fairly easily and safely. What's called? From everyone we mentioned, they have some charge looping abilities or some very weak chargeable abilities, but Snow has always been the classic unit of getting his entire team's charge up within 3 or 4 turns just by constantly move spamming. So it just works to amplify his kit and elevate it that much more just because he's already going to be getting his charge that often. And now it actually does something, when before it kind of did fucking nothing as a remove one buff ability.
On Yankapon. There you go.
True. That's kind of probably going to be the only case where remove all buffs is going to be useful, simply because most people that have evasion or defensive buffs are generally in the back line. But if they are in front line for some reason, yeah, you can use Snow for that. Okay, we are finally done with the charge evolutions. I'm gonna go read out the very few comments and move on. You think Gazer meant Bona tarde, amigo, which means good afternoon, friend. Bona tarde. Interesting. Good afternoon. It's a nice buff. What do you say makes them better than Beach Cherno?
Absolutely not.
Which is kind of sad because I don't really think Beach Cherno is that good either.
I mean, they're different unit archetypes anyway.
They're kind of not that different. Main difference is just one that needs to move and the other doesn't. But other than that, it's just like...
I think he's I'm not sure if he is referring to Chernobog or Snow.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was talking about Snow. But for Chernobog's Evo, honestly, I'd probably rather use a base Chernobog. So I don't think the buff is what makes him better than each Chernobog, but I do think Chernobog has just a lot of fancy bells and whistles in his base 5-star, including like improved charge now that, freezing the entire board is fun. Like having a chance of freezing targets in snipe range until he turns into like a mid shot range charge damage healer. Not as fun for me, and it's also mostly just like a single amplifier. I don't know. I'm not a fan of each Chernobog. I've used them quite a few times.
Unction and nourishment.
Mid.
You have an agenda against Beach Cherno.
Yeah. Oh, look who joined us. It's Harvey. He gave that exact same reaction when we invited him to join. No one likes this fucking banner. Well, we haven't even started talking about the banner, but now you can indulge in how amazing it is with all of us. Your best top line puttler. Well, he's out of the picture now. We are now going to be talking, first off the bat, Carbuncle, which for some reason I have the common and rare forms mixed up. But yeah, go ahead when you are ready, Zalgus.
Okay, so for each of these units, I actually, because like when I was just like quickly setting up my notes, I like did a tagline for each of them to summarize them in my head quickly. And Carbuncle is a little bit of everything. So our new 4-star Carbuncle. He doesn't really have a dedicated role because, like I said, his kit has just a little bit of everything. So it's kind of hard to talk about his kit without just reading every single line because it's
you better not do that.
Disparate. But
do your best. Don't just read every single line, please.
I mean, I'm not going to do that. That's why I said that. But I will instead separate it into categories. Carbuncle's categories can be defined as follows: healing, debuff mitigation, offensive buffing, and tanking. For healing, he has a blessing that applies to self and allies globally on phase start, as well as a on-miss heal to allies all around. This heal is a 70% rate, which is kind of bad, but he does have at least have when appearing prayer to make it a bit more reliable for 5 turns. Carbuncle's none, so he'll always be doing that on miss heal. His CS also has a heal to self and adjacent allies on his, so he just need to heal. He'd need to hit 2 enemies to break even with his on miss, which isn't too hard because it's magic range. Numbers wise, it's not too high. It's only 800 HP, not including the blessing. And also, he does not provide defensive buffs to go with the healing. And as we've discussed many times on stream before, healing is not very strong without damage mitigation to pair with it. He does have a debuff, he has Dazzle, but it's when Carbuncle's hit, so it's not the most reliable form of mitigation to be pairing with healing, so his healing's not too great. For debuff mitigation, it's all after buff stuff, which is a bit strange. At 70% rate for his allies, he will apply reflect debuff to allies around himself, and at 60% rate he will remove a debuff from himself but not allies. So there's this weird thing going on here where for his allies he's proactively preventing debuffs by applying reflect debuff to them, but for himself he's reactively removing debuffs. Anyway, the rates kind of suck at 60 and 70, but since it's after buff, it's easy enough to roll for it multiple times at least. And Carbuncle spams a few buffs on himself, so I guess that's fine. And by a few, I mean like 1. Reflect debuff is still somewhat uncommon somehow, and it can have some niche uses against enemy debuffs, so that can be nice. But Carbuncle's definitely going to have problems if his allies get debuffs, because he can't do anything about it unless he gets his CS, because that will remove debuffs as well from self and allies. And since it's magic range, he can potentially remove 5 debuffs all at once, which could be useful, but he has to get a CS for that, which he's not... he's possibly decent at building his CS, but I'll get to that later. For offensive buffing, on miss, Carbuncle will apply Ardor to allies at an 8% rate around self, so it's guaranteeable with his prayer and skill seeds. He also has a unique blessing advantage effect. On move phase end, he will apply a 1.5 times advantage to blessing to allies around himself. The blessing I mentioned earlier on phase start also applies to enemies globally, so he has easy access to that advantage. And combined, it's a whopping 3.6 times multiplier, which is not very impressive, but it's easy enough to access, I guess.
I don't think it's bad if it's passive, but we do have better ones, yeah.
Yeah, we have much better ones, which are also passive, but that's just how some of the 5 stars and even some of the 4 stars go.
I mean, thinking of the passive ones for the 4 stars, there's not too much to compare. There's like Sanzo, but he's only single target, whereas Carbuncle is like me and like everyone nearby him. So there could be a difference there in terms of he's just more useful for tall map farms.
Perhaps. Also, the blessing means that he would be nice to pair with anyone who applies buff reversal, of course. Which, it would be nice if he could do that, but alas. And for his last category, tanking, he has Taunt to Self when stationary, which actually has a base 100% rate, even without any skill level ups, which is kind of funny. And when missing, Tenacity to Self at a 90% rate. He will also apply Dazzle when he's hit to enemies and adjacent enemies. This one's at a 70% rate, which is unfortunate. He will also steal up to 50 CP, which makes him pretty good for denying CSs with how much he reduces enemy CP, assuming he doesn't die. It could also potentially mean that Carbuncle can get a CS quite fast if for some reason the enemy is able to build up CP quickly, which Carbuncle will then steal in large amounts. This is like pretty unlikely though, and it's probably not worth the effort because his CS is mostly or entirely defensive. So yeah, Carbuncle's what I'd call the epitome of jack of all trades and master of none, because he provides a little of everything, but he's not very impressive at any of it. And we're kind of long past the point of having a generalist unit be particularly desirable, unless they have like an actual standout point. He's kind of lacking in all of these categories for what you'd actually want. His healing isn't very high, and he doesn't have any mitigation to go with it. He can't remove buffs from, or debuffs from his allies reactively without his CS. And his debuff denial is like 1 at a time. His offensive buffing is a bit mediocre, and his tanking is bad because he can't actually self-heal without his CS. And that's really the problem. None of what he does is like too interesting or stand out to like, absolutely go for, because any of those categories that I described has someone who can do it better by, being a specialist in it. And rarely do you need just a little bit of all of it, because you could just build a team to do it all because you have 4 slots. That's plenty of slots to fill out all those roles. Unless you really need someone to like passively provide these benefits, but he can be used for that at least. It's not impossible to build a team around him and take advantage of what he provides, at least, so it's not like he's useless. He just isn't a standout. Anyway, I don't really have any suggestions for ARs besides the Lape Boogeyman one, because it gives Blessing Strengthening, which is a 2 times damage multiplier globally for 10 turns, so that's fine. They really like to shield Blessing Strengthening. And by the way, this Blessing Strengthening is the same as Belphegor's, so not that I expect anyone to take him with Belphegor, but don't take him with Belphegor, because Belphegor will have actually no purpose at that point. I mean, that would imply he had a purpose anyway, but whatever. And one last thing, which only applies to me, probably. Carbuncle is now the only 3-star unit in the entire game who is capable of getting Prayer. The only reason this is important is for units who can copy buffs from allies. In particular, Fafnir can take Prayer, at 3-star, and now it's much easier for 3-star Fafnir to get a 100% buff refresh rate now that he has access to Prayer, if you're like me and like to use 3-star teams.
I was wondering when you're going to get to that.
Very, very exciting stuff, I know. Anyway, yeah, that's all.
Thank you for that addendum, Zalgus.
I mean, I told you not to give me Carbuncle, but I was gonna add that as an addendum anyway.
I mean, that's why I gave it Carbuncle too. That's the exact reason, honestly. But yeah, it's he's surprisingly quite good for someone who is an all-rounder, and like strictly an all-rounder, not like someone like Sabanya who has some other hidden purpose where he's a masochist or some shit like that. He's like decently relevant for a lot of the the free quest farms, simply because he just has basic amp, but also debuff mitigation, which is refreshable. Not too much of a common combination when it comes to generalists. So that reflect debuff can kind of come in handy when combined with those amp, and you know, he does have some synergy potential too, as Zalgus said, with that buff reversal potential. And you're bringing someone like Shuten's Shandong variant, or bringing Jacob's variant. He's just generally.
I can't believe you mentioned Shuten before Jacob.
Well, who's gonna use Jacob anymore?
Rude.
But yeah, skirmishing is probably the best thing he's good for, or he could do something weird like I'm doing in the footage here, where he's just kind of tanking, because he does have that taunt ability, which is quite nice to go on a tank, especially a passive one, for cheese strategies anyways.
Why are you having Shuten power up Lave to kill everything?
Well, Lave's resistant to skill locking in this stage, so might as well. He got an Elo because he's good now, obviously.
Pog.
But yeah, keeping your eyes out on Carbuncle. He could actually be useful for a number of relevant farms, whether it's the Chapter 14 Tall HP farm or the Chapter 15 ones, because he just has that convenient combination of utilities that you don't see from a generalist too often. And he's not really going to get binded either, because what's it called? He's not attacking, it's not range, so you don't have to worry about Loki fucking him over. But yeah, that is it for this cutie. Carbuncle's cute. I love him.
He's Knuckles the Echidna, yeah.
He's cute in all his forms except his base 3 stars expression. Fuck that expression. Anyway, you want to read the chat, Zalgus?
Sure. Carbuncle. I hate Carbuncle. CS only affects allies adjacent. Yeah, it's kind of annoying because his reflect debuff is a all around, and so is his Ardor and his heal. But yeah, otherwise the free blessing on his 3-star is very nice for strengthening and proccing effects on enemies.
Thank you for the 532 win. Yes, Carbuncle is Chilean. Let's go play the Chilean anthem here. Pretend I know how it goes.
How much, or can you swap the slide back to 3-star Carbuncle for a moment?
Really important. All right.
Because I don't actually remember which unique effects. I think he still has. Yeah, he still has the blessing strengthening. He just lost his Ardor, which is a shame. But I mean, if your allies already have Ardor, then yeah, you can just use 3-star Carbuncle. He doesn't have tenacity though, so he still has his generalist role, but he loses like half of it, or he loses a lot of the stuff that he gives to himself. Actually,
he's like an okay pay for Fafnir too, because Fafnir passes back buffs regularly, and he can also reclaim reflect debuff if it runs out.
Does he? I don't remember that. Well, I'm using the 3-star one, so.
Oh, well, I forget if he passes buffs back.
I don't know. He spreads 1 buff.
There you go, reflect debuff. That'll work.
Sure. I immediately think of Sonic Shuffle's legendary line, the Carbuncle 8 itself, whenever I see him. I have not played Sonic Shuffle, unfortunately. My likable guy. Also, I find he's probably saying I find it really funny that a dog released right after Divine Shino is better than all the other Hekenshi for spreading blessing. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, they're very insistent on giving the Hekenshi all blessing, but they're all terrible at it.
True.
And they don't have like blessing advantage or strengthening except Masashi. Because Masashi is, I guess, he is in fact the strongest, lore-wise and gameplay-wise. Carbuncle, he's perfect. Dog unit, Temu's Summer Lave.
Well, he's 4-star and he's free, so. And also Summer Lave fell off, so helpless ratio.
Did he?
He kinda did. Like, he's no longer like the greatest local amp. His board-wide amp is very mid too. And his like survival gut skirmishing was never particularly good either, so he's kind of just like...
Sure it was if you used Milks.
Okay, if you say so.
I mean, I cheated some CQs when I was being lazy with Milks. Milks, Labe just never dying. Fatty Crystal Dog. Also, hella funny that Gargoyle really likes carbs. Why?
Probably has to do with his shiny giant sit on his forehead. I don't know.
It's an old shitty pie game on the Dreamcast. Oh, Sonic Shuffle. Yeah, I didn't know any Dreamcast. So, Carb does no damage, so Labe wins, sorry. True.
Alright, well, moving on. I'm not even gonna deny that, but then you'd have to take a costlier unit for the battle, which I'd rather not. Moving on to the variants of this banner. Exciting stuff. Ooh. Starting with the best unit on a banner, to me anyways. It's time for Girimekra. Yummy, yummers. Okay. So, Girimekra is a unit who, to start off the bat with, is an HP conditional rate up unit, at least on the attack phase onward. So a lot of his phase start effects and turn start effects, whatever they are, he won't benefit from. For the straight up effect, because that concentration ability is amazingly only on move phase end for some reason. And it is HP conditional, which we'll get back to later on in a second. The second thing to mention is that he is a board-wide enemy gap closer. He does pull all enemies in instantly, that's guaranteed out of the box, so whatever the rest of his utility is, it might be worth remembering them just for that one ability. It is quite nice if you're bringing like slash units or shit like that. And in addition to that, he can also resist all forced movement, so if you have like the enemy pushing back that simultaneously, you have no worries about that with Girimekra. And maybe synergizing with that a bit is also his ability to break units, at least at full HP, so that they can not retreat, because he will hold them in place. Is that going to be useful? Most likely not, but they all technically synergize together in that one sort of way. Next off is he is an HP conditional weak column clear. He has concentration on maximum HP, as well as break only on maximum HP as well, which can spread, I guess. Here's the deal. Even if he's at max HP, he's only going to be doing 4,000 damage per square. It's not impressive at all. He's not even breaking the minimum 10k to be considered like a decent column clear. Honestly, I feel like the reason why it's there is kind of like a lore reason. He's like psyching himself up. He has the confidence to take the enemy down until he gets hit, and then he loses his confidence. So yeah, that's it's lore. He's not a column clear, fake ass column clear despite having 2 amps. Do not use him for column clearing. More importantly, his one and only decent role rather, is his defense facilitation. So he has damage mitigation, in the sense that he has tenacity before being hit at point flip rate. Everyone knows my command. And he has protection, which is probably his most important ability, surprisingly, because it is move phase end and is guaranteeable both to self and allies. So this will be just a permanent defense buff, as long as he's not skill locked or anything, to his allies and himself without needing to ever move him, because none of his abilities need him to move. It's always nice to see passive protection, passive tanking like that. They're definitely the archetype of units that eventually replace the units such as Snow, who need to move every turn. But yeah, that's not all. He also has a curse on the combatants that hit him, and he spreads that curse to enemy collaterals that are behind the ones that I believe. Yes. So curse, protection, tenacity all build up towards the same mitigation. He also has some self-chargeful and healing paired up with that defensive abilities, which is important to note in combination because he does it in a masochistic kind of way. He has to be hit for that CP gain, for that healing, that blessing rather, to himself and allies adjacent. And if he's gonna be hit, then he better be having defensive facets to his kit, and he does. Nasty pressure and curse. And lastly, one other aspect of him punishing when he's hit is skill lock. Unfortunately, it's at a very, very mid rate of 50%. But the fact that he has a bunch of that defensive needs, as long as he isn't like one shot, which is unlikely because of all of his defenses, he can just keep on rerolling for skill lock the next time they attack again. At least that's the theory. He does have departure resistance on top of that. It's just a very fancy way of saying guts. If he starts with guts, and if he gets his charge, which he might get slowly because he's not going to be hit too often, to be honest. But if he does get hit enough, or if he has someone enough giving him enough CP to fill up his charge meter, then he can refresh his guts for his entire team that is nearby him, which is quite useful. You really don't see guts to self and allies too often on charge for a reason, because it is exploitable. So that's probably another unique thing that Girimekra has that could be good if in the right team anyways. And to pair off his damage mitigation, he is a moderate healer. He has that 700 HP to self every turn start, and he has a blessing whenever he's set. And he does have some healing on his charge too, which, as mentioned before, he can build up slightly at a pace based on how many times he's hit. And he, just in case things go south and he's like instantly disabled or some shit like that, he does have Purification on base start to preempt at least one debuff that will completely shut him down. So that is nice to have. So, please note his low attack stat and his HP conditionals. He's not going to be a relevant comp here. He might be half usable if you decide to attack seed and level seed him though, just because of his low attack stat, he disproportionately benefits from seeds of those attack boosting kinds. And let's see. You do not want to use them for free quest farms whatsoever, even if you do attack seed him and level seed him, because he has that HP conditional, which means he's not going to be fighting well against Confusion, which will just have a bunch of flat damage going off in free quests. He won't be doing anything against Curran, who just deals a bunch of flat damage instantly on the Chapter 15 farm. He's just not going to be clearing anything in free quest farms. So maybe in any other 12 map farms, but not free quest ones, unfortunately. So the main thing that he will be useful for then is going to be his passive defense, as I mentioned before. That passive tenacity and protection and curse without needing to move, paired off with a skill lock, and the fact that he does heal a good amount. I think the idea is he's kind of like a pseudo solo carry in the least impressive way, because he can just keep on taking hits and healing in such a way that the enemy can't really do anything about it, because all of his defenses are not a phase start or anything that's one time only. He can keep on refreshing them. That's the highest praise Girimekra will have though, just constantly taking damage and not being killable because of all his defenses and his constant healing, and temporary debuff mitigation as well to prevent skill locking, preventing that. And the enemy can't really run away either based on his board wide pull as well as his break, as long as he's not damaged enemies. But yeah, play him as a combat masochist and punisher for skirmishing is what I have to say. He's otherwise not really a great focused unit. Kind of exists in this world that doesn't really need to be hit. I think the best way to understand him is just the lore of he's trying out sumo wrestling because he's trying to get over his self-confidence issues, and he psychs himself up, but then he loses confidence when he gets hit. But he never gives up, and that's how you explain his constant tenacity abilities and his constant self-healing abilities. He's just, despite sucking ass and not being able to have a high impact for offense, he's just gonna exist for quite a long time because he refuses to die, in theory anyways. It's not too impressive defense mid, but having 2 pseudo permanently and up to 3 is quite nice, I guess.
No one is fucking Mecha Man.
Yeah, well, protection's there at least. And, skill lock is nice if it does go off.
I hate these 50% tenacity triggers. Stop it, Life Wonders. He is not a Mecha Man.
He's thick, just like a robot. There you go.
Girimekra is pretty ass. He doesn't do much. I don't know why he needed HP triggers for his break and concentration to make it worse than it already was. Like, he can inflict like okay damage when he's 100% HP, and beyond that he can't. So I don't know why they had to make it like basically one turn only, useless. I don't read the comments.
This bitch Harvey, he's bringing the usual side eye as usual. Instead of joining the chat here and speaking up, he decides to spill the tea in the sides as usual. You're a spine man. Jesus Christ.
I mean, you could ask him to come in and flame Girimekra.
He can if he wishes, but wait, what? Am I supposed to read the chat now, or are you just not giving your thoughts?
No, I was just saying don't read what Harvey said.
Okay. I'm gonna read the chat eventually, but let me know when you're done talking.
I mean, I pretty much am done. Like,
what the heck, Zalgus? Okay.
What? He doesn't do that much. He just sits there with decent
on my
defenses.
Face, he makes me happy. Okay, he sits on my face. That brings me purpose in life.
I guess.
Alright, Girimekra is not good. This is just me actually trying to find purposes for him and rationale for how he's designed. But I'll read out the chat if you really have nothing to say about him. Jesus Christ, Zalgus.
I mean, what do you expect me to say?
I don't know,
he should have knockback because he's a sumo wrestler, but I guess he's bad at it, so he doesn't have the knockback like Ashigara does.
Yeah, because in the lore, it's not like he's a sumo wrestler by trade. He's just picking it up for the one thing for the sports festival. Anyway, let me read out the chat. Jeez. It's an old shitty party game on the Dreamcast. Carbuncle.
I already read that.
Okay. The pun. No weapon equals no affiliation abuse. Good luck next time. He has bigger health. Ooh. Carbuncle, we are unnecessary for bucking up. You deserve so much better. At least the art has me eating him up. I do not like the dumb sumo uniform, but at least he has like a shorts elf, which is like, quite nice. I love that artwork. He is perfect for sumo wrestling. I am not going to read that, Lynn. I respect that you like your own thing, but I'm not going to keep on reading your own things. Jesus Christ. Stop making me read that in chat, Lynn. Jesus Christ. I hope he gets a second out. We need some kind of a slow burn trio thing with Tsuka, Makara, and Girimekra for Varuna coping. I'd prefer Mushka instead for more mounts. Wow, the lore is heavy tonight because I do not know any of these things. The segment where our defends this homeless bum reheating Maria's, Sanzo's, Hoover's nachos for 10 minutes. Is this your way of glazing Sanzo again? He's not Sanzo, okay? He can actually protect his entire team, unlike Sanzo, who's only like protecting one unit. And also, I don't think any of those units have really that good of healing. Girimekura's one unique thing is, in addition to, like, you see the skill lock and you're like, oh, he's Maria / Sanzo / Hoover, but unlike all those other units, he actually has defenses and healing combined. Maria does not have defenses and she has shit healing. Sanzo, I'm pretty sure he doesn't really have healing at all. And Hoover does... Does he have? I don't even remember. But I don't think he has healing either. So Girimekura's main thing is just having a lot of passive defense and healing, which makes him, in theory, just kind of like never gonna die for quests with moderate damage and little buff removal issues. So, the issue isn't that it's like a weak, what's called, impact for what he does. I don't think he's weak impact. It's just that the role itself is currently irrelevant in terms of right now there aren't really, even within Endurance Farms, moderate damage threats. Endurance Farms offer fucking like insane damage threats where they remove all your buffs and like do like unblockable flat damage. So Girimekra doesn't really have an answer to that. If they made longer Endurance Farms that were like maybe at least like 5 or 8 turns long, that would be better. But for now, Girimekra is a solution for a problem that doesn't exist and has not existed for quite a while. The Berserker type challenges. But yeah, I do think if we're looking by the numbers, 700 HP plus 800 HP from Blessing, that's like almost 2k healing for a bunch of defense. That's more than 1 defense stack every turn. Most of it guaranteeable, and I think that's pretty good in terms of like I don't have like solid numbers to define standards for defensive units, but a combination of like 2k healing and 2 defense stamps seems like a good way to declare, yeah, he's a tank. Anyway, he does have that skill too on top of that. Girimekra, please come home. I got sweaty Charnu and 2 of that darn sweaty fish and 1 tent pole. Then again, in a ticket pull, please come home, Giri. That's what I'm saying. Giri, sit on me. Beyond, if Elise draws Musclebound Mushka, I would make him the next Elise Oshi. I got a banner sweep. Hey, congrats! I got Otohime and Aegir very soon. Well, Otohime came afterwards, after the stream. I did not get Girimekra, unfortunately. I'm probably just gonna have to save for him for when he reprints for the end of the year reprints. Mushka is Ganesha's mouse mount. Interesting. Hey Brad, how are you tonight? Decent. Follow on my Girimekra. Part of me wants Girimekra in a basketball outfit. Well, he does pull off those shorts quite well.
He will never be balling.
It's okay. He can take a seat on me instead if he can't fall upwards. I'd hella love a basketball event with Girimekra and Kusha. That is quite an interesting combination. Chat manifesting a second sports variant for Giri already. Jesus. You got a flipping off banner. Rest in peace. I got both 5 stars, sadly. Honestly, that's kind of a humble brag, but also I understand where you're coming from based on the 5 stars of this banner, as well as how cute Giri is. Not that Giri is someone worth pulling for his kit, but I don't think it's terribly bad in theory. It's just there's no quest that requires this sort of long-term endurance, to be honest.
Potential man.
Potential man, but even less potential than Onyankabon, who has already proven himself. Alright. I want Giri too. Let's just save up for the end of the annual banners at the end. But yeah, let's move on to the next topic. I think we have enjoyed the warmth of Giri's buns long enough on our faces. So we'll now be talking about Otohime. This will be covered by Zalgus. Go ahead.
Oh boy!
Don't be rude. She's good. Kind of.
Sure. So here's her tagline: evasion spam me. There you go. So, Otohime has her variant. How does it differ from her canon of a regular version? Very greatly, I assure you. So, as a rollerblader, Otohime is extremely mobile. Almost everything in her kit revolves around on-move triggers, and she has expanded movement. Really expanded movement, usually. Innately, she has Omni movement, but she can also further increase this if her CP is 100. Since her CS is blow range, once she reaches this, she basically has permanent uptime on +2 movement in all directions. However, if her CP is 0, this will actually decrease her movement to normal range, so you do actually need a turn to ramp up to anything above 0 CP. Consider giving Otohime literally any AR which gives her phase start CP, or anyone who can give her CP before she moves. So you can actually use the Omni movement. There's an interesting trigger timing for the CP and movement, because I think that's the first that we've had something like that. Anyway, I will now list all of Otohime's buffs on move. When she moves, she will grant Glint and Acceleration to allies in a 2 square diamond radius, Prayer, Arousal, and CP to allies adjacent. These Arousal and CP also apply to herself, and Evasion to herself and the ally in front. And that's pretty much all she does. She gives a fair amount of CP between Acceleration, Arousal, and the direct CP, and she also has a after buff CP to allies adjacent. Without including the after buff effects, she will grant 32 CP per turn to allies, which is fairly good. Every after buff effect ticks for 8 CP. With Prayer, that's at 80% rate, so she can start ramping up CP pretty quickly if you manage to feed her a lot of buffs. The evasion she grants to the ally in front is actually at a fairly high rate of 70%. And she grants herself Prayer when appearing also, so this is more like a base of 80%. It's not actually the highest rate we have though. That would belong to Summer Kotaro. Now that's a real throwback. Much like Otohime, Kotaro grants himself evasion on move and also evasion to the ally in front. And he grants it at different rates, though, which is at a 30 and 80% rate to self and to ally in front, and he does not have innate increases to the rate. He is also similar in that he has expanded movement, but that's only for 2 turns, unlike Otohime. So Summon to Kotaro is quite similar in that regard, although his end goal is much different in that he ends in blowing up the enemy, whereas Otohime has basically no offenses at all. Anyway, near guaranteed evasion, or potentially guaranteed evasion if you just give her a few buffs. Evasion to one ally can be pretty nice, but you'll also probably want something to protect Otohime because she can only reach a 60% evasion on her own with Prayer and Skill Seeds, so she'll need help there. So ideally you'd want whoever she's protecting with evasion to also protect Otohime. Coincidentally, Yamasachi Hiko can do that. The welfare version can provide tenacity and protection to her, so that could be a pair if you wanted for the lore. But yeah, that's pretty much all Otohime does: CP, evasion, and omni movement. If you're thinking it's not that useful, you're probably right. Omni movement. What?
He has Prayer and Glint to allies.
Well, yes, the Prayer is nice to allies. She has like 100% uptime on Prayer because it's a very high rate, and she also has lots of Glint. So yes, you can also use her for pretty good skill rate up. You basically just need concentration to complete the trifecta. But yeah, with that, that's all she does: CP, evasion, omni movement, and the skill rate ups. And that can be useful, but omni movement is nice, certainly, but I find that omni movement drops its usefulness once you've set up your team into its optimal position. This is especially true for smaller maps, so anything that's not like giant maps. In giant maps it might be more important because you need to actually mobilize like way further across, but I mean Otohime is not going to have 100 CP for that anyway, so you could use some other omnidirectional movement too and they'd fill the same purpose most likely. Or you could use Gabriel, who has innate +2 horizontal movement, but never mind that. But yeah, omni movement is something that I find once you've set up, it's not that useful, and Otohime needs to ramp up to her really big movement. So by that time, you've probably already set up. So it's a neat gimmick, but I don't think it's super useful. The CP build up is pretty good, but we've also got a lot of other units who can do that already. And the evasion is only reliable for one unit, which we have a team of 4, so I think you generally want to be protected more than one unit. Her CS is kind of whatever, and it's debatable whether you're really supposed to be using it, but you can. It grants 30 CP globally and evasion to self, and as I mentioned earlier, it's blow range, which is good because it lets her continue zipping around the map, but it also makes it hard to actually use, and it means you're going to give 30 CP at most. Unless you pair her with Onyakapon.
Just like the footage.
Which will make her CS global, which will basically let her constantly loop her CS, so she will always have evasion.
Not just her CS.
Well, yes, not just her CS, but everyone's CS.
And it's
Give
everyone
or
on the board
take
too.
if they go off first or if she goes off first. But yes, she'll make her entire team's CP just keep filling up and keep CSing over and over again, as long as Onyankopon stays in front of her. Now, the usefulness of this depends, of course, on what team you have, but it's something you can definitely build towards. You could also use someone else who does it, like Fashionista Wakan, but that's not really the point. The point is that Otohime can do it. And she can make herself and Onyankopon functionally invincible, because she'll 100% give herself evasion, and she will almost certainly give Onyankopon evasion as well, which you can supplement that by giving her glint and concentration from elsewhere. So all in all, I'd say she can be useful, but she's definitely not plug and play, and she's not really going to make or break teams. I'd say she's nice to have, but I don't know if I'd really go all in on her unless you want to make a meme team. You make one unit evasion tank, but the other 2 units are unprotected, so you'll need to account for that. And the Omni movement.
The Omni movement, it counts as a defensive ability too. You can move them out of the way all the way to the back, and
I guess
on the side of the board, away from the aggro. That's what I'm doing in the footage. Proof it works.
Sure. Well, yes, the Omni movement +2 can be fun to play around with. Like, I've played around with, like, just having units zooming around the map before Otohime, and it is fun to do. But she's definitely not someone you can just brainlessly put into a team.
Yeah, but you have enough brainless units. I think it's nice to have a fun unit. I'm giving her like a lot of leeway here to see her in positive light, but I do think it's. Yeah, she's not great for farming. In fact, she's pretty much irrelevant for farming, even in Nerd Storms, to be honest. But like, she's very fun to play, honestly. Especially with Onyankopon. Like, pretty much like forget Otohime until you have Onyankopon, because it's really fun having board-wide charges on everyone, and to bury them from a safe distance away, like. Because Onyankopon's on board, you can also alternate between Otohime and them to use their own charges board wide, or you could also have them instead have something like a snipe range charge to kind of like poke them from the back. Any sort of thing that strategizes them, keeping their distance while Otohime and Onyankopon is in front. It's mechanically fun, is I think the main draw of going for Otohime.
I guess the problem is that she provides no buffs that like change numbers, if you will. She has evasion, obviously, but she has no offensive buffs or debuffs, and she has no defensive buffs or debuffs beyond that.
Charges technically have a 2 times multiplier at least, or 3 times.
True.
So, in theory, at least with Onyankopon, you could legit do like super strong charge teams that are going off every turn, depending on the map.
You could, but that will depend on the player to make a fun team.
Well, yeah, if you're not making a fun team, then there's not really any reason to use Otohime at this point.
You hear that, audience? Make fun teams. Oh yeah, also, I was just reminded, I think it's funny that you used her, to represent her in the Discord, you used the shark, because she doesn't have her shark. So I was going to say, who does a shark represent?
What else am I supposed to represent her as?
A robot. A butt, rollerblades.
I don't know, it's a bit dehumanizing. Anyway, I don't regret playing for Otohime. She's quite fun to play with Onyankopon. She's not relevant per se, but neither was F-Walkon. Honestly, I would rather use Otohime than F-Walkon, because one of the issues with that setup
was relevant in his time.
I never believed him being relevant in his time. It's just like, he was good for instantly killing Bile, and that was it. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, do that with many other setups at the time too. But yeah, Otohime's mobility is quite nice, and a feature that setup with Walk-On and or Licho was missing, because that just had like 0 mobility and it took forever to get everyone in place, and yeah, it was a pain. Anyway, if you have Otohime, you don't need a Volcon. That's the highest praise I can give.
I guess that's true. I don't know if any other units have like as much as like a ridiculous amount of CP bestowal as she does.
It's just her her Fashionista Walk-On and Bohemio, except not to self for this case, which is the main issue when it comes to him. But yeah, it's just those 3 units, I'm pretty sure.
I guess Otohime also gets the ball rolling faster than any of them.
Yeah,
because
so
she has so much innate CP already.
That's her main draw. Like that after buff CP, whenever you see that, it's just like, I grew over time. It's quite a nice effect, because it's like one of the best ways you can build your charge like within like 2 or 3 turns, maybe even just 2 turns. If you have
unfortunately, it's not to herself.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, she can build everyone else's charge quickly if, at least before she builds her own to spam on your opponent's charge. So, there you go. Also, that Glaiton Prayer will just... Well, Prayer at least will guarantee Anya opponent's abilities to all range herself. Quite nice.
I think they should introduce more skill rate up buffs.
Careful, Zalgus. We're gonna release more units like Shitigarba or the mob unit that we recently got.
I can't remember who it was or what their name is.
New Gen, that was it.
Oh yeah, them.
The Lambator was good though. More units like that, please. Alright, if we're done with Otohime, then you can read up the chat.
No, I wanted Giri. The banner sweep is clearly setting me up for an epic fail on a future banner. Surely not. You'll have the same luck as always.
Surely.
4-star F Wakana at the cost of doing nothing else. Kind of. Wow, at the cost of only really being able to fly around the map.
She has mobility.
Skill rate up.
Walk-On can't do that. Walk-On shit. Fuck Walk-On. That's what the F stands for.
Fuck Wakan, but not Mugen Wakan.
True.
Otohime finally succumbing to the cliche sexualized sports girl pose, but still having a modest buns and not Nikkei level of hips and tits ass ratio. I guess. It is not what I wanted, unfortunately.
Nikkei is kind of toxic when it comes to their sizes. This reminds me how awful straight people are. Anyways, keep on going.
Thicker or something. Otohime here is my favorite unit of the banner design-wise. Her art has a lot of energy behind it. That's one way to put it.
Very dynamic, has that sort of Olympic aesthetic to it with all the poses in the background.
I like this art because it has a mini Hombre Tigre. There you go.
You know, Zalgus is allegedly an Otohime fan. It's like, nice compliment.
Yeah, but I don't like this art.
He prefers this demure lady. She needs to be wearing at least 3 layers of clothes, everyone.
That's right. But also, I respect women and don't... I can't even finish that sentence.
That's just...
something, Otohime's ass. Got her with Salmon ticket, which is why I wanted to start focusing on my favourites. My brother actually wanted more female furries. You will be happy with Hecate, Quantum, and what's-her-face, Durga and Huckman. I think I named all of them.
I don't know. I don't keep track.
You gotta hand it to the Cowbells, to Cowbell-san. They made her look so spirited and ecstatic within the art. Yeah, there's also something unusual that, you know, in her original art she was billed as, you know, a robot, so she was pretty calm and emotionless. Well, not quite, but... And here they have her with a big old smile, which is a change I'm fine with. My girl lost all her aura and hype moments. Yeah, she lost her fucking sharks!
You really don't think this poses hype? Okay, whatever. To each their own, I guess.
Yeah, because she doesn't have her sharks. Because she sold out Army. Wish I had 4-star on Yakapon. well, he's not limited, so he'll come eventually. More like she sold her laser sharks. Where are they? That's what I'm saying. They're on vacation with the Robo Shark.
That's the most reference. Yeah.
Onyankopon can be exchanged in December if you don't get him off ban until then, Brad. Hug. I'll deal with it when the time comes. Yeah, Onyankopon's probably a good choice if you do not already have him from the anniversary. Glint's nice, at least, but I also have Xmas Nomad. I mean, they're kind of different roles. Xmas Nomad, you want to take him for the evasion penetration.
No, you don't. Bring Apollo.
True. I'll take back a bit what I said and add that her lower cost can be helpful. I mean,
that's true.
When compared with F4Con. Oh,
F4Con and Icho or something like that. It's just less cost, and, you know. Normally, in traditional F4Con setups, you're bringing other 5-star units that can, like, spam evasion, like Takamaru or some shit like that, but, you know, Otohime's got the mobility where, you know, she can reposition 4-star charges in a bit more safer manner.
I still use F4Con for board clearing every now and then. Don't slander my boy, heathens. Angry face /S.
Sorry, but it's all Otohime now.
Yeah, I'm just now noticing the Otohime art. She's discovering the world. Otohime 3rd dupe for more sacred artifacts or ticket shards summoned to... What?
Same Zalgus. Anyway, yeah. I'm glad I got her, but I would have rather had Girimekra. Actually, is that true? I'm having fun with Otohime. Well, I still want Giri, but... I love seeing it.
No, I know what he's asking. He's saying if he has 100 summon points, should he get another Otohime dupe or save them to convert into 3 tickets? Or, 100 ticket fragments?
An interesting question.
Or, 100. I mean, I think that 30 CP at base is enough. If you have 2 dupes, you probably already give enough CP to only have to hit 3 units at once. And also, Otohime gives CP herself anyway, so...
It could be worth it, honestly, because it's like if you're equivocating it to a ticket, which is like, it could be anything, including a 3-star dupe, including an Elf Banner, then...
It could also be a 5-star, or, points towards another spark. But no, in this case, I would say take Otohime and see how much CP she gives when she hits something with her CS. Does she give at least 33? Yes or no? And if she does, then you probably don't need to pull for another dupe. I don't know how it will scale.
It's linear, so should be easy to update, but not on stream, so don't worry about it.
You do it.
I'll pass, because that's something Prisma needs to calculate himself. Anywho, we are finally moving on to the 5 stars, everyone's favorites. Ooh. We are now... By the way, thank you, Zalgus, for covering the chat. We are now going to be covering Chernobog's 2nd variant. Amazing. Didn't we just talk about this unit? Can't believe this. Alright. Yeah, I was the one who talked about him last time, too. I'm such a big Chernobog fan. Guys, you have no idea. Anyway.
He hates Chernobog.
I'm not denying that. But anyways, he is a pretty tanky unit. Actually, that doesn't quite sell right. He kind of sacrifices almost everything exclusively just to tank. But let's elaborate on that. He is a team endurer, is his primary role. I don't really like saying tank because it's kind of ambiguous. That implies that they only personally take damage. But it's like saying they're something like an endurer or a guard would be better to say. He's doing it for the entire team. He's mitigating damage, like a lot of damage. He mitigates it by protection, instantly on phase start, guaranteed. And that protection can be refreshed conditionally if he doesn't move on every turn after, as long as he's above a certain HP threshold, 30%. He can bestow defense up on the very first turn of each phase on a generous timing of move phase end. So you don't need to move him. And he also has Adamantine, if stationary, to allies adjacent. So he has 3 defense amps, all instantly accessible in the right position. And most of them refreshable, except for defense up, which will last for 4 turns. It's quite lengthy in the first place. And all of them 90% or 100%. He also has some situational defense amps, or damage bits rather, such as his Dazzle Weakening effect, which if the enemy has Dazzle, they will deal only 70% of the damage. And he inflicts this to all enemies, which will last for the first 3 effective turns of battle, I believe. And this is relevant in the sense that he has Dazzle on his charge. And he can also inflict Curse on his charge incidentally too. So if you are like a super Omega Whale, then and you have him at max artifact level for whatever reason, then you're getting protection and tenacity and not tenacity actually, protection and defense up and adamantine and dazzle and curse and this dazzle weakening, which should like reduce damage to, I mean, let me ballpark it right now. Actually, I didn't calculate beforehand. Probably less than 5% of damage to the entire team, not just to himself, mind you. A lot of these Omega tanks often have most of these amps on just themselves, but in Chernobog's case, a lot of these amps can be applied to his allies. Note that the if stationary protection doesn't apply to himself beyond turn 1, unfortunately. But other than that, every single other amp can be applied to himself too. So, essentially, he's kind of like providing evasion without providing evasion at a very reliable rate to his entire team. And he does have some Guts utility on top of that too. He starts off with Guts just like everyone else in this banner except for Carbuncle. And he can refresh that Guts at a coin flip rate beyond turn 8. So turn 9 onwards, he can just act kind of like a pseudo Nicholas Kasuga, keeping everyone alive as long as you win that coin flip. It's quite an okay endurance effect, but it's not going to be used currently for the endurance farms, which are only lasting for 3 turns for some reason. Clearly that effect is meant exclusively for challenges. But yeah, outside of that, he is a very potent ally healer. So in addition to have like a ridiculous amount of damage mitigation, he also has an extremely potent heal source. So after that, he has heal reversal. Unfortunately, he doesn't need to move for this, and it can apply to his allies, but it is refreshable, and it only applies if he's below a certain HP threshold, unfortunately. So just because of how much defenses he has, it might not be realistic to achieve that. But if you, for example, are bringing flat damage dealers on your allies, then you might be able to use that so that you can restore yourself back to full HP, which is a bit contradictory at that point. But he does have some other faculties that synergize with that, which I'll get to in a bit. But more importantly, the main reason why he has a massive amount of heal potential is because of his after buff heal to allies. It is a respectable 60% rate, 500% or 500 HP per buff, which is slightly less than Blessing, I believe. It's quite good. Like, you're getting a tick of like almost Blessing every time he's buffed. At 60%, 70% if he gets his concentration when he's set. Which means if you're giving him like 4 buffs or even 5, then you're just like healing 2,000 per turn. It pairs very well with his defense. In fact, it pairs so well it might actually be redundant at that point because they're barely going to be doing any damage to you, which means you don't actually need that much healing in comparison to make up for that damage that you do receive with the healing anyways. So, yes, that is a lot of healing paired up with a lot of defense. And on top of that, he has some charge denial when he attacks. I mean, I guess it's there, but it does synergize towards preventing the enemy from really getting the strong effects, strong damage going off. And as a last note, he does have freeze resistance to all allies, which is kind of whatever. But yeah, on top of that, he is a Masochist Punisher, kind of like Carbuncle was, or rather Girimekra. He has a concentration effect when he is hit, so he does want to be hit and take damage. It's just that he's going to minimize that damage so that he can get that concentration to be a bit more reliable. And he also has a low health dependent amp. When he is below 50% HP, he can provide that limit effect. It's not going to be likely due to all his healing and his damage mitigation, but if you're bringing someone like Yig who can deal flat damage to your allies, then that limit effect could be useful, in theory anyways. But yeah. There is one unique effect that kind of doesn't really fit anywhere, but synergizes with that heal effect indirectly. It is the fact that he can share all his buffs to allies only if he moves. The reason why this isn't exactly as great as other buff spread effects is not just because of the limited range of a spread, but also because he doesn't really have too much buffs himself to want to share in first place, and he doesn't really have any other abilities on move besides that HP loss reversal at that HP conditional range. So yeah, he can share all buffs, but to what end if he doesn't really have any buffs?
Concentration.
Yeah, that's one of the few ones again, which is kind of whatever. But I believe the main point is, if you're going to be exploiting that after buff effect to heal your team for massive amounts at a respectable rate, then he's gonna have a ton of buffs anyways. And if you're gonna be bringing someone who's gonna be like his Omega buffer that doesn't really apply those buffs themselves, then Chernobog can pass back those buffs to that support unit so that they can become a damage healer themselves. So it is a synergy to look out for if you're actually exploiting that, but you might want to, because that's kind of like half the skit, with the other kit just being defense. Notably, as a tank, he doesn't really have any other utilities for tanking, such as debuff mitigation or extend movement or anything like that. But yeah, pair him with like a multi-buffer to get the most out of that after ally heal effect, or units like Bigfoot's 5-star War Mountains variant that gives a ton of one-turn buffs every turn. You may also just choose someone who can pass back the buffs, their strong whips like Yannon or something, I don't know. Watch out though, he also, as a tank, he lacks self-heal, which is probably one of his bigger weaknesses. So unfortunately, you may want to consider compensating for that by bringing a secondary healer to make up for his own lack of healing. Someone who's more committed to healing and less committed to damage mitigation, since Chernobog's clearly got that covered. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of his extra damage mitigations, his Dazzle and Curse, and in fact his Dazzle weakening, is not accessible. He has zero way of building his charge. That CP reduction effect is not a CP steal effect. So you may consider pairing him with a charge filler, or even investing in affiliations if you already invested for his base 5-star for the freeze effect. But it's only really worth it if you have a high enough artifact level, because level 1 Dazzle and Curse isn't that great too. But yeah, outside of that, endurance utility. Even though that Guts is only for like 8 turns and beyond, he still has an extreme amount of utility for 3-turn survivals, just because that is a lot of damage to be cutting off. So he's pretty much like, you plug in there and you kind of like instantly win for any sort of endurance map, as long as there's like units in the back slots as well. He'll die eventually, but he'll be able to survive for like at least 2 turns, so you're gonna like instantly win for these 3-turn primes if you put him in. And you may want to pair him up with units, because he is such a defensive unit. Units that are good with potent stall effects. As an example, there's the Hero. His 4-star can over 4 turns get his boardway charge. That has like 4 different amps, and he does give like buffs every turn, so it'll be easy for him to get those buffs to go off. You may also want to consider units like Otohime's trophy variant, combined with Capone, so that you can continuously stall even safer before you start board wiping with charges very often. But yeah, that's all my thoughts for Chernobog.
Did you compare him with Summer Tindalos? Because that's the one I would always do.
I have not, no.
Okay, so one of the main problems with Chernobog, well, problem asterisk, is that he provides very little offense to the team. He has, a bit of concentration to self, and he can provide a little bit with an asterisk. Whereas the monstrosity that is Summer Tindalos after his Evo, don't know why he gave him that, is a lot of defense, or a lot of offense rather. Now Cherno doesn't do this. I will say what Cherno's biggest benefit is, though, is like he said, that he doesn't have to move at all for any of his defenses, which is genuinely a advantage that he has over Summer Tindalos. If it were old Summer Tindalos before they buffed him into whatever the fuck he is now, then I think it would be a fair comparison. But it is unfortunately not right now. So, but yeah, as far as tanking without having to do anything goes, he's definitely the one right now.
What is that?
Stop flirting in chat.
That's not me, it's Flurry. Anyways, yeah. Is that all you had to say, really? Yeah, he's strong, tanky.
I mean, that's the biggest comparison point.
I mean, I don't know, there's like flaws you could talk to them about too.
Like
it always sucks when they don't have debuff mitigation, and it's always annoying when the tank doesn't have self-heal either. I guess Tinlos also didn't really have self-heal besides his unction, so Chernobog's doing it better by at least healing his allies. Yeah, it's I don't know. We're getting a point in this game, in kind of like a unsteady point, with all these new farms and clearly a new type of design of unit that would traditionally be considered bad. Because if you asked us a year ago, this unit's like, oh, it's Amaterasu 2.0 or something like that, right?
I mean, we did complain about Summer Tinderlust when he came out.
Yeah, because he was released in that era when, it wasn't great for that. But Chernobog, honestly, would be like Tinlos 2.0 in terms of complaining in that same sense that he's just purely defensive and is going to be useless otherwise. It's kind of difficult to say if that's true, though, because, endurance farms are now a thing. Maybe they're going to change the designs of the games moving forward, because presumably they would not design a unit that's so exclusively for defense if they weren't actually going to commit to making more quests for that sort of defensive pattern. Especially when there's it's not just Chernobog, right? It's like a number of units that aren't quite as offensive and more defensive, or auxiliary utilities such as Otohime or Girimekra. And even Aegir's ability isn't that offensive, but we'll get to that eventually.
Did you say Yig?
Aegir.
Oh, I thought you said Yig, and I was like, what? But I mean, with regards to that, we could have said that about Summer Tinderlust again, and they responded
that was a different era, is what I'm saying.
Skill evoing him.
We could say that too, but I mean, they still can. Just wait a year and we'll get the Chernobog Evo, because he's in the same place as Tinderlust in that same case. The what's different really is just, are the quest designs going to change? So that's the question. It's kind of hard to say at this point. In the very least, they did commit to Endurance Farm, so I'm very happy about that. Chernobog, despite being a pure defensive unit, is actually useful and an instant win unit for the second farm, so that's something you can never say about Tinlos from before, when you were incentivized to bring someone like Jurong or Babun instead in support.
Yes, I do appreciate being able to just plop Cherno down and then he will live. Unless Aegir gets to him, but never mind that.
Yeah. But yeah, I am a big fan of seeing these defensive units actually being useful in relevant, non-challenge, actual farm way. Love to see it. Hopefully it'll reflect the actual challenges too, where there's more endurance type things that aren't just board wipeable. But we'll just have to see.
I would appreciate if they also existed in challenge quests, personally.
Well, they've changed a lot of things, and they've started changing the farms too. But let's remain hopeful for now. Maybe we've been remaining hopeful too much, but they did already change the farms, so it's a step in the right direction. They finally moved past their quality of life era. I think I've yapped on the same topic for quite a bit, though, so I'm gonna go read up the chat and then we can go on, unless you have something else to say.
No.
Alright, can't wait to see Harvey's side-eyeing as usual. How far were we, actually?
Otohime third dupe for more SA or tickets shard somewhere too.
The Bisma comment. His left arm looks so off. I don't know, it looks fine to me.
What, the one catching the ball? I mean, I guess it kind of looks like it's, what was it called, foreshortened?
It's kind of bent, but that's kind of what you're supposed to do as a catcher position, I believe. Not that I watch baseball.
What, his left arm?
His catching arm.
Are we talking about his left arm or his left arm from our point of view?
I don't care. I think both arms look fine. That's why I took a second to look at it. It's like
I guess it's kind of like, because the elbow isn't really visible here.
Or I can't quite. It's Chernobog. Who cares about Chernobog's art? Just fucking always off model, no matter what art he's in. He looks completely different from his base 5-star, and this one also looks pretty different from his Summer art too, and all of them are different from his reference art in Samopedia. So I don't even fucking care.
He hates Chernobog again.
I don't hate him. Maybe it was fansman, but I don't hate him. I know it's because it's extended in screen direction, but still. Chiruno's package looks so happy and thick. I feel like he's gotten no sports cup. Are you saying Chernobog? I'm gonna assume you're talking about Chernobog.
He's saying Chano, yes, in a fancy way. He's not talking about the Toho Fairy Chilno.
Okay. So it's a reference to that, I see. Also, love
Possibly, yes.
I'm gonna assume they have a similar playstyle or something, or appearance. Also, love Zao's cute chibi and Hokyu's arms and ass looking tick in a baseball jersey, and the simping is out. The simping is out, put it back in. Same, I love Chibi Kami. I do like the stickers in quite a few of these, honestly. The fact that they gave Goemon a bulge, despite him being chibi, is kind of funny though. It helps with the survival grind events, yeah. If this is gonna be the norm where we have survival units being like permanently relevant, I'm all for it. But sick and tired of these board wipers, board wipe amps, pierce everything, remove everything, fully offensive, who cares about defensive amps when you can just blow everything up in 3 turns type units. Like, Chernobog, give me more of that as long as you're giving me more endurance farms too. Chernobog, my beloved, I don't give a damn about you, the pattern you're on. This is the first time I've been generally okay with skipping one of my faves. I'm not okay with skipping Girimekra, but I'm also not gonna waste the rest of my 100 stones I'm saving for the next banner. Which, by the way, we'll talk about at the very end, because there's not really any other stream we can't talk about it after. But yeah, let's go read Harvey's meme. This banner is potential, man. 0 damage, 0 useful buffs to spread. 7 turns wasting trying to get to Guts endgame. Honestly, it's kind of just like a bonus effect for super long endurance farms. It didn't need to be there, be equally as strong before, but it's just a bonus for even longer challenges, I guess. Because it does not like somehow reduce his relevance for having 3 or 4 different defense stamps for his allies. Arguably even more if you get his charge. Possibly a 5-star to his Catlipoca partner. Can we stop making this Catlipoca work? I don't really understand how he's supposed to play. Though I would rather steal Guts from someone else. Chubby Bull, Lion, still not Girimekra though. So true, oddly. The only base one around here. He got skill locked, he's dead. Yeah, that's the main issue with Chernobog and even Tinlos, to be honest. As defensive as they are like completely vulnerable to debuffs, especially skill locking ones. So when it comes to tanking setups, this is gonna be in my new format for evaluations, but you've heard of triple column clear setups and board wipe setups. One setup we don't talk about very often is because it's kind of just like assumed everyone knows is the endurance setup, and it's historically not been useful for farmings until now. But yeah, for endurance setups, what you're going to want is a combination of primarily 3 things plus maybe some extra. Defense, Chernobog provides that. Healing, Chernobog provides that except himself. And the debuff mitigation, because if it's all skill locked, it does not matter. So be sure to bring debuff mitigation always for tanky units that don't have debuff mitigation. It's kind of just their one flaw that will make them instantly killable. You might also want to consider other utility like Otohimes for those endurance farms so that you can start dodging or things like that.
Just bring Pazuzu or Nyal.
Yeah, they're...
Or Tyramighty.
Or Carbuncle. Ooh. Possibly 5-star TS. I already read that. Harvey, you're fat. Jupiter, that's you. The galaxy, because you're the size of a galaxy. Amazing dialogue, guys. Focus on the video, old man. Yeah, Zalgiwali, call him out. What the fuck, guys?
I don't know why you two keep calling me that.
That's your name, Zalgiwalgi. Lend me some buffs. Valentine Amducius. This is a non-seeded Summer Tinlos we're up against. Right. Well, Valentine Amducius definitely set the record. Hopefully they don't go higher than Valentine Amducius in terms of board wide amp. We're done with the board wide amp. Come on, that era has been explored for longer than it needed to be for like a year and a half at this point. Give it up. LOL. Hello, I am 5-star T-Skelly Poka. You will give me your buffs. I wasn't asking. Right, is definitely one way to play this game, I guess. This event is such a sleeper. I'm taking a nap just thinking about it. Art does indeed hate Chano, I believe it. I don't hate him. I just think that all his fans, well, not all his fans, but most of the fans I've seen him have are kind of just like, they simp, they don't care about accurate characterizations, they don't even play the game, they log in and maybe, but not even, and they're just Coomers essentially. They're not actually fans of the game. They just Coom and they call it quits. Like, yes, that's exactly right, Zalgus. They're vapid. Most of them, not all of them. I lost his luck from the story banner. I mean, I got Aegir, so even if I didn't get the kill in the end, I still got in like 2 tickets, which was definitely something. That was kind of funny. Also, I did get 3 Star Carbuncle, so that's neat. But yeah, we are finally done with the chat for this section. We can move on to the final topic of this discussion. I'm not sure if I should have switched these topics, but whatever. I'm sure some people like Aegir, who we will be talking about now. This is going to be covered by Zalgi Walgi. Go ahead, Zalgi Walgi.
Of course. The tagline I wrote here, which is not really an accurate tagline, but sure. I'm sure Ara will agree with it. 8 of 5, but worse.
Yes.
Aegir is our designated column clearing unit because all the other units in this banner kind of suck at attacking. Girimekra is like the only one who can do damage, and that's debatable. Oh yeah, not with that attack stat. Did you comment that his attack stat is absolutely atrocious?
I commented,
it's so bad.
Like, you're not going to farm them, but if you do see them, he might be decent because low attack stat means better scaling. That's what I mentioned.
Bad attack stat. His attack stat is like almost as bad as Leonard's, and I've used that frequently as a checkpoint. Awful. Anyway, so Aegir, he has both support for his allies' column clearing, while also being able to deal good damage himself, and also enabling other allies to column clear at all. For his allies, he provides Vigor, Attack Up, and Weapon Change Shot, so he can turn whoever he likes into a clearer. However, this has a few problems. The Vigor and Attack Up are both when appearing. This means that Vigor won't last 3 turns, it will only last 2, which is 3 is the typical length of Grind Quest, so that'll fall off before that. Attack Up is fine though. The other problem is that his weapon change shot is at turn start. This means that on turn 1, Aegir cannot position himself to have 2 people turn into shot range because it will be before he's allowed to move that he changes their weapons. I was gonna like add an addendum to this about, you know, unless you use some like really specific setup that allows it, but I don't think you can because I couldn't think of a unit who could, you know, arrange themselves such that it would be like 3 people in the front row except Barong, but he's already shot range, so
yeah, that's kind of like defeats the purpose of doing that. So
yeah, so it's irrelevant in that case.
I think I guess how you're supposed to play them maybe is, you know, one of the units needs to be, or only one of them
already a clearer. Yes.
Yeah. I guess they could be like a snipe unit or a magic unit instead, and you can give them a better bonus in later turns or something. But
I guess that would also work. Well, actually, that's a good suggestion. I didn't actually think of doing that. But yes, so yeah, on turn 1, Aegir cannot turn 2 people to weapon change shot, which you can solve this by making it so that Aegir only needs to change one teammate's weapon. I don't know why I repeated that. He only needs to change one teammate's weapon type and to have like a 3rd column clearer who's already able to do it. Ara said there that for subsequent turns, you can, if you have your 3rd column clearer that you're not immediately changing as like a magic or a snipe range, then you can have Aegir change them to shot range so that they have a better damage bonus. So that is a option for subsequent turns. But yes, that is a genuine problem on turn 1. That is not unsolvable, but it is of consideration. So for him,
his amps vaguely remind me of Masanori, just in terms of they're there for the early battle to make up for his shitty turn 1 abilities.
Oh, that, yes, on Valentine's Masanori. So for himself, he has concentration, attack up, and also applies bullseye and shot range in front of him. This adds up to, I believe, 38k damage, which is perfectly good for column clearing. He also removes buffs from enemies before he hits them at 80% rate, and he has a further chance of removing all buffs before hitting them at a 30% rate. So the remove all buffs is a total meme because of how low its rate is, but it would be great when it triggers, depending on what map you're in.
I mean, he's like, to its credit, it is like the first one of its kind to be on that timing. That's just like, it's there.
Yeah.
It's not like every 3 turns, like fucking talking about a shit range. It's not like locked behind a charge like on snow or something. It's just there on before hitting.
Yeah. It is possible to get it to 100% rate, but you need to give him Glint Prayer concentration first, skill seed him, so that'll be an extra 40% for 70% rate, and then you would need to like use Smoky God, or you could also give him the Gabriel Nomad AR for an extra 20% rate, which genuine use case for it, by the way. And then you would need to do like affiliations or move him next to Ben 10 who he likes, etc. There are ways to get it to 100% rate, but
you need to update
it's
your
a lot
staples.
of hoops to jump through. What?
You forgot to mention Ulaanbaatar.
Oh yeah,
I sort of got you.
Sorry.
Like, every time we talk about AMs, you mention Lianen but not Shuten. Every time we talk about rate-ups, you talk about Smoky God but not Ulam.
Sorry, I'm stuck in 3 years ago.
Possibly. But yeah, Ulan's a good example. Actually, he would pair quite well with him because, you know, he's only thrust range
He's
too.
fucking thrust range!
So, ooh, the synergy, Aegir and Ulaanbaatar. You heard it here
That would actually be useful. Anyway, he's got a pretty good chance of denying buffs as a result of this constant buff removal and also potential complete removal. But besides those capabilities, he has a few other things at hand. Increased vertical movement. I think this one's just supposed to be lore related because he's playing rugby and therefore he's going to be charging forward. Honestly, horizontal movement would be more useful, so he could 100% set up his team on his own to
Masanori effect.
But never mind that, I guess. He applies oppression to his hit enemies and also enemies left and right. Ideally, you're going to be killing them all anyway, but sure, why not? Turn start nullify debuff to self, so he's fairly resilient to infrequent debuffs, so stuff like, you know, debuffs when he hits them, most likely. So that can be nice.
It's sort of important too, so that he doesn't get skill locked
Low-key.
and or, you know, remove buffed so that he can no longer have his fucking just basic ass range to attack with.
Yeah. Oh yeah. His basic range is blow, which blows. So make sure he doesn't get his weapon change removed, unless it's in the middle of him attacking, because that would actually be useful.
Well, you know, something like nullify buff would be annoying, but that nullify
Yeah, but no
debuff
one
is-
ever uses
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's true, but you never know, things could change.
Before hitting, he also steals 500 HP, so he has a fairly good sustain of 1500 HP per turn at max. And the last ability he has is when missing ATCP to self. Now, this goes against his column clearing nature, unless his column happens to be empty, which is not impossible. Some maps do have it like that. And his CS is pretty good. It removes all buffs to all enemies hit, and it's also all range and has 6k flat damage. Now, all range CSs which remove all buffs are extremely rare. It's pretty much only Vanilla Shiva, who also removes all allied buffs. On Yankapon, Abuse not included, because there are a few units like Snow and what's-his-face, Divine MC, who remove all buffs, so you could use on Yankapon with them. But besides that, Aegir is really the only one who unconditionally just removes all debuffs, or all buffs off of enemies with an all-range CS.
Yeah, and the flat damage is decent too.
Yeah, so Aegir's CS can be nice as just a mass purge of enemy buffs without the downside of Shiva's CS. It can be difficult to get Aegir to miss, though, so you might consider just pairing Aegir with people who can give him CP if you're aiming for that playstyle.
Just use his vertical movement to push him to the back as fast as possible.
I mean, you might still hit them if the entire enemy front row is full. But yeah, that's about it. As far as being a column clearer who supports other column clearing, he's pretty good at it. His vigor timing isn't ideal, and neither is his weapon change trigger timing, but you can work around it. You just need to build around it. So, like I said, the most direct competition for Aegir would be Eta 5. There's another throwback, who also turns allies into shot range while buffing them and doing good damage himself. So, how do they stack up? Aegir's damage is slightly higher at 38k compared to Eta's 33k. You may correct me at any point if I'm wrong. Eta's weapon change is on move, so Eta does not need to work around Aegir's turn 1 limitations. So, if you put Eta in spaces 2 or 4, he will not care. That is well, actually, he wants to be as early as possible, so he'd probably want to be in 2. But anyway, Eta doesn't need to work around the turn 1 limitations nearly as much as Aegir does. Eta's buffs are not when appearing, so they will last till turn 3 and past, assuming he triggers them. Eta innately pierces all defenses and also allows allies to pierce evasion.
That's like such a huge, important difference between Aegir and Eta. That's like, it's kind of... I don't know how a kid like Aegir can exist when Eta is right there with full defense, penetration, and letting all allies pierce evasion too. What the fuck? And then Aegir has a 30% remove all buffs. Whoa, amazing.
The same way that we get CS Evos that are a complete joke.
This is the main argument against Aegir, unfortunately. I mean, some people are making it work, but yeah.
So Aegir does not pierce defenses. He removes buffs, which can be useful sometimes, but it's only for his column. Eta's Ardor is 70%, which is kind of a terrible rate, and his increased shot damage debuff is in a cone range, so it doesn't cover all range of his fellow damage dealers, no matter where he stands. At best, his allies will still be missing one enemy with a debuff. If, say, like, Eta stands in the middle, he's going to miss diagonally up 1, and
it has its own problems.
Diagonally up left and up right. So that is a problem. Aegir, in terms of buffing his fellows' damage, is more reliable in that sense, because his is in a giant range, but it also falls off. So that is a consideration. So I'd say they're decently interchangeable for the most part, but if you really need to pierce evasion, then that's another consideration you're going to need to compensate for. Aegir, as a blow range unit, does have access to defense piercing ARs, so he can work around it, but you'll need to make sure his teammates can actually pierce evasion or defenses as necessary. I mean, I guess you could just bring Apollo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all in all, I'd say Aegir's a fine unit for those who don't have Eta or don't want to use him. He's a good replacement. But if you do have Eta and you're fine with using him, then you can pass on Aegir, because Eta will do his job just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess most people skip that Eta banner, so unfortunately they'll have to settle with Aegir instead.
Well, the people who got spooked by him on, like...
Unfortunate, they don't have to support Aegir anymore.
on fortune pulls, can use Eta instead and skip Aegir.
So cool. But I have both, unfortunately. Where's my Giri?
You can pair them together.
Whoa, the synergy.
I mean, their debuffs don't overlap, so...
I guess, I don't know. It's kind of cursed.
Or their buffs and debuffs.
Kind of funny how, like, Eta's consistently interacting with Aegir the most out of, like, a lot of the characters that he could be interacting with. Like, not just in battle, but, like, also in the story. Like, he had a lot of interaction with Eta in Mystic Christmas, and I believe also in his original story. And now Eta's also just in his art, which I bet pisses off a lot of people who are fans of Aegir. It's just very, very, very funny. Okay.
Eta also dislikes Aegir, so he gets a slight buff.
The synergy is real. Anywho, I can add on a few things, I guess. Use him for tall map clears, just like Eta, basic. But don't be fooled into thinking he's only useful for... Sorry, just someone said. Don't be fooled into thinking that Aegir is only for tall map worms. Despite it appearing to be that way, that extended movement is going to be good for many, many challenges as well. Even if it's not Oz or Onyan Capone, having short range can help for many units such as Masanori or Miniaki's onsen variant. Any sort of unit that have like low range and high spread debuffs that are compensated by that low range, they work well with Aegir for sure. And you can also spam his charge more often if you decide to give him combo, because if you're giving him combo, there's a potential for him to use his charge and then build it up right after immediately by missing within his column after. Consider that potential for dungeons. He could honestly be just like a good replacement for Shiva for anyone that's still using Shiva for whatever reason in dungeons. If you're still using Shiva, don't use either of these ones, just use like fucking Kiyama. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, technically he kind of replaces Shiva, both in terms of his charge accessibility as well as his remove all buff utility, which doesn't actually remove his own buffs unlike Shiva. And that flat damage too works quite well with him. So yeah, don't use Shiva anymore. Aegir is here to replace him, which is kind of fitting for, since they kind of have like an overlap in fans hidden. Anyway, outside of that, well, we will not mention his name again. Rare, I have one last comment on him. He can probably also just board wipe with his okay-ish damage if you use that Smoky God Walter Oz setup. And his remove all buffs will be guaranteed at that point, in much the same way that Thunder Mighty's 3 buff removal can be guaranteed. So it's gonna be slightly worse than Thunder Mighty though, because unlike Aegir, Thunder Mighty can skill lock everyone. But yeah, you can do that too if for some reason you don't want to use Thunder Mighty. Very cool. Exciting stuff.
Unaffiliated.
A lot of these units are. Okay.
Carbuncle's part of the Rulemakers.
Yeah, that's cool. Carbuncle's cool. Carbuncle's cute. I like Carbuncle. Okay, move on. We can read at the chat, if you will, Zalgus.
Let's see. Where were we?
Somehow I think that's valid. And something about Salty Wally.
What's that? Oh, somehow this is valid. I don't know what Salty Wally is.
Probably referring to... I don't know, actually. I was going to say Wakantanka, but that's only applies to Wally.
There is no Wally here. Where's Wally? Aegir looks like an alpha rugby Yo with his body shape here. I do not know what that means.
He's glazing him, obviously.
Also love how his Faffin rugby ball says gigantic macro men fans where you at. Yes, he is the macro representative. At least Shuten helps making up for his lack of buffs while also getting shot range for what matters. Yeah, I guess Shuten would be nice because he just provides a billion buffs. But there's overlap with attack up and whatnot, but it's probably fine. I prefer Balor, sorry. Unfortunately, Balor fell off, as Ara will gleefully tell you.
Yeah. I used to think he was like the strongest magic damage dealer, and now he's just like, he's worse than Kengo, he's worse than Anbari, he's like worse than Marduk.
I mean, they got Evos, so.
Yeah.
Well, not Marduk, but. Thank God we got another column clearing support this banner. That archetype was really falling off. Honestly, sorry, Harvey. We need a column clearer for every banner, because if we didn't, the tool map farm would be awful.
It's vaguely nostalgic, to be honest. We haven't actually gotten too many column clear exclusive units. There's more like board wide shit, board wide amp, board wipes, board wiper supports. So thankfully they bundled all the column clears into a single unit, so you don't have to worry about them releasing a ton at the same time. Aegir took the bullet for the rest of the units. Unfortunately, the other units were not necessarily left better off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, fucking the rest of the units still received some bullets, different bullets.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the endurance farm meta is real. You'll see.
I've been using him with permanent Otohime to farm. Thankfully, the damage has been sufficient. I mean, yeah, Otohime has always had good damage, and she would be an example of someone who would benefit from having her weapon changed, because changed from snipe to shot, so it's like, what is it? From 0.26 to 0.45. Is that right? I can never remember sniping long slash.
It's 0.26 and 0.32.
3-2. I thought 3. No, is it 3-2?
Yep. For long slash, right?
No, for. I meant for shot because that was what I said.
4.45, sorry.
4.5. Okay, so I was right. But yeah, Otohime is a good example for that. I've actually been getting use out of her for the sustained quests because Chernobog gives her enough tankiness to survive, and then she just charms them or skill locks them first.
Yeah,
that
that
works
50% rate is really pulling numbers, isn't it?
Of course. Hello, whoever that is. Message retracted. Get out of my polls, Mr. 41 SA, and how dare you come in here with your perm 5-star. I'm sorry. Come home, Girimekra. Fenrir got robbed of a chibi, angry-looking pepper thing. Yes, our Carbuncle is cute, and so are you.
Oh, thank you.
You guys are still here?
Yeah, it was still gassing up Aegir.
Hey! Harvey's here. Woo! Want to redo the discussion from the beginning? Not that Harvey's
Oh, you know it. Let's do these charge skill evos all over again.
Okay, let's move on. Anyway, we can close off the discussion for now, but Harvey's here for the cool part, I guess. So, let's ask Harvey first, I guess. Honestly, whoever wants to hop in can hop right in. What did you guys think of this event? And I guess Charge Evos too, and the music, the one song anyways, and the change in the endurance farms, and, you know, whatever the current challenges, I haven't actually done it, but whatever. Any sort of sentiment so far was that, plus the return of events in general, the end of the campaign period. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that they're bringing back, like, non-seasonals. Because this is technically a spring event, I guess, but this is actually, like, the worst event I've come across in a while. The music, I think, is very mid. The character designs are also not that great. The kits are very mediocre. Like, I'm surprised that they made me skip a banner with, like, Chernobog and Otohime and Giri. It's like, what? What's happening here?
It's the transition to the endurance farm period. Just you watch. They're gonna be hyper carries. Otohime's gonna dodge all the snipe bullets coming from the back row from the next endurance farm. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, surely. There is one thing that is, I guess, good, and that is that the people on Zawa, I think that the writing is pretty high quality, or at least it's a fun story to read.
Oh, thank God.
So yeah, that is a one redeeming quality, I suppose.
I feel like Aegir got massively shafted writing-wise in Mystic Christmas. Honestly, like, I feel like Eita had more of an important role than Aegir there. If you remember the story, I think Eita was having some issues with, like, the evil devil things that Tomte was making, and then Aegir just showed up and was like, let me help, and then he turned big, and that was the end of his role. But yeah, outside of that, he could definitely use a better write-up. I don't think his original story was that detailed either. Something about Ran. Girimekra already had a good story, so I'm excited to see more good writing from him. And Otohime, I mean, I think you guys know my opinion about Virtual Summer Memories. One of the worst stories ever fucking written. Like, at least Otohime's part was kind of decent, but, like, let's be real, her debut story was not the best it could have been. Fucking awful. So, I will look forward to that in 3 or 4 years, because their translation schedule has been kind of shit so far.
Right, it's like, we're still have to do, what, Silver Pool as like a 2022 event? Yikes.
Yeah. I was expecting at least one reprint during this period, but no, it's just like a full season of campaigns. I don't think we ever had that before. It was insane.
When is this event ending anyways? I didn't check.
It was like
It's a
28
full
days.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking god, are you serious? We're gonna have, like... We're gonna have our summer event, like, at the same time as Law. And that's usually, like, later than Housamo. That's crazy.
It's...
I'm guessing that means that we're not getting a reprint after this, before the actual summer event. Which is...
Imagine if they just stopped making ring prints. It was like stupid weeaboos, stupid gaijins. We're not gonna curate you. I don't know. It's feeling that way. Where the fucking translations, man? No, I mean chapter 15 was decent at least. Zalgus, you can hop in at any point. Jeez.
You're having so much fun.
The music, it was kind of funny and something.
No, I think the music's kind of lame. And the fact, like, I was in conversation with you when I went to the shop. I was like, wait a minute, this is the same song.
It's lame that it's reused in both the shopping and in the trailer. I do think it's kind of unique, though. Kind of like some Slavic, Russian, folksy theme. I don't know how it relates to sports, but it's a bit funny. But yeah, I'm very disappointed it's only the one song so far. The theme, at least aesthetically, it was better than I was expecting for a sports-themed event. It was like fucking, I don't know, the aesthetic of a Yogi Academy in general is kind of eye cancer, or eye sore, rather. So they're doing okay.
Well, I do like sports events, but unfortunately they pick sports that all don't appeal to me, personally, so I don't really care about the event or its designs. And the kits being kind of mid makes it worse.
Cherno's carrying.
This is just like this is just like the most nothing banner ever. That's like insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I agree, but I think you already heard me what I say. It's like maybe the quests will change in the future. I mean, normally that's huge cope, but they already, as a matter of fact, changed the endurance farm. So, like, maybe the reason why they designed these units to be traditionally considered as shit for our previous standards is because the standard is going to change. It's already halfway through changing, so hopefully.
Right, but you know, they can do like good banners alongside system changes.
That is impossible.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, overall though, I am disappointed by Girimekra kit. I'm trying to, like, yes, it is good tanking, good healing, but like, I know deep down it's like this. That's not relevant. Like, come on. Let's wait for the evos. I guess
he's better than Saturnus.
That's true.
I don't know why that creature's on my mind so much. It's like he's gonna be always relevant for being like dog shit. It's so funny.
You could also use Inari if you wanted to say that, because Inari was also fucking shit.
Shit, except you had to move them every turn, and
he's
also
blow range, so it doesn't count. He doesn't match the weapon range. You have to like there has to be like one comparative quality.
He blows. There you go.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement. We're just looking forward to the end of this event. I'm sorry, Girimekra. I'll just have to play you later. But yeah.
Alright, you didn't do the HGQ yet, right, Ara?
I did, but you can talk about it if you want. Like, I'll probably forget by the time I stream it.
It's okay, and I found something that might be amusing to do, but that's about it.
It's a little silly, but that's all it is. It's just a little silly.
Okay, well, at least it's not like boring and you couldn't see the mechanics because everyone died instantly. So I will look forward to that.
I mean,
okay, it's level 60. I wasn't expecting much anyways, but if you think it's silly, at least that's something instead of just everyone dying and then you don't even know what the mechanic was. Outside of that, I don't think there's too much interesting to talk about this event in itself. I'm sorry, but before I run off topics, so why don't we clue in on the hints for the next event, since this is probably the last time that we're going to stream before that event.
Is it really hints when I could just give the names directly?
Well, yes.
Are you retiring the HGQ streams? I forgot.
I'm doing them, yeah, but like, you know, don't you want to talk about it alongside right now? You're not going for HGQ. What?
I'm pretty sure I already told you that, right?
No, I mean, I know who the units are, but on stream now we can talk about them together.
You mean for that? I mean, for the challenge quests, then, I mean, if it's going to spoil you, then there's no point in talking about it. And we already said that it's a bit silly. There is a bit of fun to be had. So,
you know, I'm talking about the next event variants, right? I don't know what you're talking about this challenge for.
Because Harvey was asking you about the challenge quest screen.
Oh well, Whatever. I'm just gonna go talk about the variants right now because you guys are taking too long. So.
No, I want to do it.
Okay, Zalgus, go ahead.
The units for the next banner are apparently Alberic, as in that guy who looks like Anvari but with a beard from
Each side.
Anvara Falls.
Yes.
So he'll be the new unit. It should be Wolf Seslav, Citri, Ashigara, and maybe Hermes.
As the variants.
So you're probably looking at Ashigara and Wolf 5, and Citri and Hermes 4, and probably Alberic 4 at that rate, because I doubt they're going to do a triple 5-star banner.
Alberic.
So,
like coin booster.
If there is a non-zero chance that Alberic is yet another coin booster.
This is the main reason why I'm not spending anything for Girimekra, by the way. I would. I literally would not care if it was not for a fucking coin booster that might be coming out, so...
Yeah, if Alberic is a coin booster, then for optimal team setups, they may be ruined as a result of him, which will be funny. But I like Alberic anyway, so...
What optimal team subs are you talking about for fucking the coin farm or the coin dungeons? There's like no setup anyways. It does not matter what they were, if they had another coin booster at that point for those quests.
Because it means I'll have less room for my setups that include Oscar and some other 5-star. And also Anvari 5 because his fat ass takes up all my fucking space.
You can replace Oscar with double Anvari plus Alberic, and he'll be calm clear too, and then just throw what's called needs for hooking them back to do an auto farm. There you go.
No, I need to clear fucking Overlord.
Oh, well, you don't actually need to replace your current farm teams for the free quest, I believe. Anvari's fine enough. If you want more coins instead of
I don't need to replace my team for that either.
I don't think you'd even be able to. Like, my team's pretty much at full
It really
capacity.
depends on like how big the coin boost is, really, because this is gonna be better than the 10% unit XP from a mentor. That's like what you have to compare it to when you're replacing a unit for free quests.
Yeah.
For coin dailies, it's gonna be a buff no matter what, so it doesn't really matter there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I can actually change my team at this point, unless I was actually straight up replacing Kiyoma. With a double Anvari and Kiyoma, there's not really another room for another 5-star alongside someone I'm leveling on side. Anyway, look forward to a coin booster, guys, and look forward to the end of this event.
I know I will.
Sorry, this is kind of ending in a whisper, but I have nothing else to say, so let's just go ahead and end this discussion. Alright. Thank you for joining, everybody. The next time I'll be covering a stream is going to be for the playthrough of the challenge quests, so that should be near the end, the last week. Also look forward to a video covering all these topics, maybe within the next 3 or 4 days. I know this is kind of slow for it, but I mean, you can see I'm not really getting the energy from these bozos. This does not bring happiness.
Yeah, sports!
Amazing. Everybody loves the sports festival.
Everyone loves the Jibber event.
They should have picked better sports.
Yeah, like water sports. Alright, guys, let's close off. On 3, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Bye!